Welcome back. So last time we left off, I was actually partway through milling this plug for the rear lower cowling, and as you can see I switched over to the ball mill and just doing the sort of tricky corner bits there that you can't reach down to with the flat end mill. So almost done on that, and here you can see the finished product. So there was a couple of bits of areas there where the guys needed to do a little bit of handwork on there, but overall came out really nicely, and probably better than the last one I did, which was the previous sort of section before that. It just gets really tricky there where you've got sort of a right angle there where the side meets the what is basically the bottom of the wing, and there you can see where the intake outlet's going to be for the hot air. And so the next up was the actual main spar for the foreplane, and so this is it just getting underway. And again, this is similar to the leading edge spar, but just a little bit heavier. And here you can see all the flat edges have been done and switched over to the 3/8 inch ball mill and just sort of doing a swarf cut on the sides of it there. And I do that sort of like one step at a time, and I think I was doing it maybe 0.2 of an inch or 0.1 of an inch down at a time, just so you're not sort of stressing the end mill by trying to do too much in one pass. And so that basically runs the full length there and then steps down as it goes, and creates, there is a little bit of curvature and stuff on there, so it makes sure to create that curvature as well. And as with the other one, I had to mill one half and then slide it down the table and then mill the other half. So this is the second half now, just getting underway with the flat end mill. And this is the earlier one, the leading edge spar plug for the foreplane. So the guys have done the first round of sanding on that one. As you can see, all the guide coat has been sanded off, and there's a couple little touch-up spots that need to be done. And this is a little bit later on, so Jeff put the first coat of primer on there, so that'll get a guide coat now again, and the guys will get on sanding that one. So moving along pretty quickly with these three new plugs at this point. And there's the main spar there for the foreplane now, or the plug at least, and that's all finished. So got all three of these done in putty within the first 3-4 days of this week, which has actually worked out fairly well. And here's the guys again on the first one, so that's getting the second round of sanding now with the primer on there, and as you can see, the guide coat's on there and that's coming off. And here's Jeff, he's actually just in the process now of bonding in that little closeout there for where we had the old little recess there for the foreplane spar, and that was something we changed in the design a while back, so we had to just close that out and just make it one big sort of flat surface again, because the new spar is going to sort of bolt up to that face instead. So anyway, simplifying things in the design, but you know, just fixing something in the prototype, which, you know, I guess happens quite a lot in the prototype stage. You try to avoid it, but you know, some things just don't work out the way you want initially, and you just got to react to it and fix it. And here it is all cleaned up. So we've put a couple of bits of wood there just with some packing tape on them so they don't stick to the high side, but that's just to hold the closeout so it stays flush with the forward bulkhead there. And as you can see, there's a couple of things also going on now in the cabin. So what's going on is I'm creating some hard points now for some of the things that are going to be bolted up there. So there's one for the autopilot pitch servo, one for the throttle there, and another one for this little brake adjuster there that sets the sort of anti-lock system on the brakes, but you'll see more of that shortly. And back on the engine, so you know, we had the redesign for that oil shuttle that lives inside this main housing, so that's been sent away now to Corrugated, which is a company, the machining company up just north of us, for them to make that shuttle for us. Our good friend Barry is sorting that out for us, and while that's happening, I'm sorting out the housing here so we can have the drain. So this is drilling a hole in the bottom of it, and this is going to allow the oil that we're sort of injecting into there to sort of drain back out, and ultimately just drilling a 7/16 hole in there and then tapping it with a 1/4 inch NPT tap there. And it's showing a little bit of angle there, but I hadn't really started it there, I just set it in there. And I've got all the different bits and pieces for the plumbing, so this is going to be the line that's going to come out of that hole that I just drilled with a fitting obviously, and obviously the line's long, I'm going to trim it, and then it's going to go to this pressure gauge, which is going to be temporary. I've got that so I can pull it out of there, and then a Y because it's going to be coming in this one from the return line from the governor, and then this is going to feed back into our sump, into the existing sort of weld bung that we have in there right now, which is also 1/4 inch MPT. So here's the hole that I drilled and tapped there, and that's with a right angle fitting coming out of there, and this is all AN8, so it should drain pretty nicely out of there. And the pressure gauge is just to make sure that we're not getting high pressure there. It should come down to almost ambient, just to be running back into the sump. But you'll see more on that later on. And Jeff just did one layup there over the forward bulkhead closeout that he put in there, just to sort of smooth things out and make sure that thing's not going to pop out. So that's done. And here's the leading edge spar again, plug for this leading edge spar. So this got the second round of primer on it Friday afternoon, so that one's moving along. It just needs the sanding now, the last round of sanding, and then waxing, and that one's ready to pull the mold pretty much. And here's the other one. The guys have made quite a lot of progress on sanding on that. It needs a little bit of detailing in some of the edges down the corners there where it's difficult to mill very smoothly, but overall it's looking pretty good. And so everything that could be done had been done with respect to the nose going on, so it was time to actually get that bonded into place. And here you can see Jeff is doing his nice little cake icing tricks there and getting all butted up, ready to put the nose skin on there. So obviously he's just doing the flange there on the forward bulkhead, and he's done all the other flanges around the window there, and he's still got to do the one around the bottom there on the lower surface. And meanwhile, I've bonded these first couple of things in place. So that's a mounting pad for the Adahar system, for the Attitude computer. And then I got a couple of hard points in there, which are basically these studs, which are going to hold parts of the aluminum frame there that hold the instrument panel up. And those are bonded into place. And here you can see now Jeff's putting some high sole on this lower joggle there, for from the lower half of the fuselage where the nose is going to mate up to it. So that's the last bit that needs to be done before the nose can actually be put on. And I was all set up to actually get some video of us, and I had my tripod and everything set up putting the nose on, and I totally forgot to press record on my camera and kind of missed that. But anyway, you'll see that in a minute. So there's the hard points I put in place there, and you'll see more of these later. So they've all been bonded in, and they're just taped there so they don't move while they set up. And even these brackets there, I've just bonded a couple of those little screw-on studs there into place, so everything's sort of coming together there. And there you can see the nose is on and bonded into place now, and that peel ply will just get taken off there next week. But the nose is on and looking good, so that's not coming off again. So good progress there. And this is just a little bit of a walk around so you can see what's happening there. So anyway, quite a lot of progress this week on not only the fuselage, but the other guys working on the 3 different plugs that we got going there. And Jeff was pretty busy running around doing all sorts of different things, including obviously getting this nose on and a bunch of other things going on. So there's quite a lot of things that can get done next week now that the nose is on. We can get the side stick mounts mounted in there and a few other different things. And probably won't have an engine update until we get that oil shuttle back, but I'm looking forward to having that back. I'm kind of miss not being able to run the engine in the evenings. Anyway, that's our update for this week, and thanks again for watching.